Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we will be talking about webhooks. So other than APIs, webhooks are one of the simplest yet most powerful way to make applications talk to each other. Instead of constantly checking for updates, webhooks let external services talk to each other and notify your system about the moment something important happens, something that in terms will be known as event. So in this video, we'll break down what webhooks really are, how they differ from APIs, polling, and WebSockets, and why developers rely on them for real-time integrations. Then I'll walk you through a practical demo configuring a Clerk webhook to automatically sync new users into our database. So without further ado, let's jump in. So what are webhooks? Webhooks are basically a way of communication between two systems wherein one system is going to automatically notify another when something important occurs. Instead of waiting for you to ask, the service sends a message directly to your endpoint the moment an event occurs. Think of it as a push mechanism which is fast, efficient, and event driven. They are widely used for things like payment confirmations, user signups, or status updates because they cut out the need for constant checking. And whenever these events occur, they just push a message or the event to another system. Now let's try to understand webhooks with a simple analogy. So suppose there are two castles A and B with a rift between them. Whenever castle A needs to send a message to castle B for help or other reasons, someone would have to go around and inform someone in castle B. But people in castle A found a better efficient way of sending messages. So they installed a catapult on their end and they added letters or parchment paper to the stone and use it to send messages to castle B over the rift. In this example, the castles are basically systems talking to each other. The catapult is the webhook endpoint, and the stone with the letter is the payload, and the trajectory represents the API call made. So, when an event happens, the system A pushed it over an API call to system B. A webhook is like a digital messenger. At the heart of it, there are two key players, the webhook provider and the webhook consumer. The provider is the system where the event happens, like a payment gateway, a user sign up service, or a form submission tool. When something important occurs, the provider sends a message, an HTTP post request to a predefined URL. The URL belongs to the consumer. The webhook consumer is your application waiting to receive that message. It's like a listener or a doorbell. When the provider rings it, your app wakes up and processes the data. APIs are all about request and responses. Your system calls an API when it needs information, and other system replies. When with webhooks, the flow is reversed. The other system calls you when it has something new to share. APIs are great for on-demand data, but webhooks shine when you want instant updates without having to ask every single time for it. So a lot of people get confused between long form of polling and webhooks. Long polling is a technique where your system sends a request to another server and waits sometime for several seconds until there is new data to return. If nothing happens, the server holds the connection open, then eventually replies with nothing. Your system then repeats the process again and again. It is better than basic polling because it reduces the number of requests, but it still relies on your system constantly asking for updates. Webhook flips the model. Instead of asking, your system sets up a listener, which is an endpoint, and the external service sends a message the moment something important happens. There is no waiting, no repeated requests, just instant delivery. Server sent events create a one way stream from server to the client, sending updates continuously over a single connection. So, how are these different from webhooks? Well, SSEs are great for live feed or dashboards. Webhook, on the other hand, are discrete messages. Each event triggers a new request to your endpoint. SSE are about ongoing streams, while Webhook are basically about individual notifications. WebSocket establish a two-way persistent connection between client and server. They are perfect for chat apps, multiplayer games, or anything that needs constant back and forth communication. Webhooks don't keep a connection open. They are one-off, call triggered by events. If you need lightweight event-based notifications, webhooks are ideal. If you need continuous interactive communication, WebSockets are the better fit for it. This here is the diagram of Clerk webhook which we are going to configure. So whenever a user is created or updated in Clerk, it triggers a secure webhook event that is verified by our Python backend using Swix before automatically updating our local database. So first off, I'm just going to add Clerk user ID in my user.py, which is basically my model in FastAPI project. After that, I'm going to head over to main.py. But first, I need a dependency. So I'm going to install py ngrok, and it is going to take some time to install. Once it is done, I'm going to just freeze the dependency in my requirements.txt file. Okay, so now I'm going to import py ngrok, and from py ngrok I basically need ngrok. So ngrok is basically a tool that helps us build a tunnel that makes our ports accessible with a public url. Now I'm going to head over down here and I'm going to add a method app.onEvent. This is basically a method provided in the FastAPI framework that lets us to handle particular events like startup and shutdown. So you can actually use it to dispose your database connections and all. But here and I'm going to just start a function that I'm going to name it as start ngrok. And inside this function, what I am basically going to do is I'm going to declare a variable called public URL and ngrok.connect. And herein I'm going to pass in the port number and I'm going to return the public URL. So there's going to be one print statement that will actually show me the public URL that ngrok has created for us. I'm going to change this print statement a bit. After doing that, I'm going to clear the terminal and I'm going to start my application with command uvcon app.main app space dash dash reload, and I will check and verify if we have been able to do it. Okay, so ngrok actually failed and it shows me a timed out error. So let us check why this actually occurred to us. So I'm going to stop the project for now. And okay, so I have actually forgotten to add the argument for bind TLS here. So TLS is basically the transport layer security, and you need it for packets to not be sniffed by other over your internet connection. So this is going to be a security layer for HTTP. Now I'm going to head over to the ngrok dashboard, and from here I'm going to copy this auth token after logging in. Now heading back to the terminal, I'm going to just paste this over here and press enter. So it will be downloading ngrok for us, but we are again getting the timed out error. So basically what is happening is there is something wrong with this binary file that basically gets downloaded. So let me try downloading it from the store itself, the Microsoft store. So it is downloading. So what basically went wrong is there was some issue and the at the servers of Microsoft. That is why we couldn't download the binaries. But let's not sweat on ngrok. Let me remove this first. We can basically just use port forwarding at this point, because ngrok and port forwarding are basically the same thing. So let me just remove this function and this import, and after this I'm just going to start my app again. And after starting the app, I'm going to head over to this ports menu, and I'm going to forward a port. I have to enter the port number. It is going to take us little bit of time. After you get an URL, you change the port visibility to public instead of private. Or before that, I'll head to the Clerk dashboard and go to Clerk docs. Now, herein, if you search in the web documentation as webhooks, you will get this webhook overview. Herein, if you scroll down, you get the entire payload structure for user.created event. So whenever someone logs in, this is the type of event that is going to be passed on by the endpoint when you create it. So I'm going to keep this open. Also, it says that Clerks uses Wix to send our webhooks, which means that we are going to have to use this Wix, and also the signing secret will be available once you configure the endpoint. So I'm going to open this webhooks page in another tab, and also I'm looking for this URL to verify webhooks with Wix libraries, and also I'm going to open this. So basically, why you need to verify your webhooks is because anyone can actually send a webhook event to you, because at basically it is your API call itself. And in the Swix document, you can better find a small snippet that is going to help you out. So I want to get it done in my auth.py router. So I'm going to remove this commented out code and paste the code that I have copied from the Swix dashboard. Herein, it basically follows a request response model. I'm going to split the terminal, and in the new terminal that I've opened, I'm going to install Swix first. So after installing Swix, what I'm going to do is, okay, it is still installing. I'm going to clean the terminal, and now after I have installed Swix, I'm going to organize this code a bit. These three lines, I'm going to cut it from over here, and I'll just scroll up and paste it over here. So we have to import this from FastAPI. Let me cut it and just paste it after a comma, and we can now remove this line. And Swix line is okay, but you also have the signing secret that you need to keep. This is a sample secret, this is not the actual. So I'm going to head over to my .env file and add the clerk signing secret. And once I create the endpoint, I'll be getting the secret, then I'll paste it there. I'm going to remove it, and then I'm going to import os in auth.py. Now, with the help of operating system, I'm going to get this environment variable, and that's pretty much it for now. Now, below when you see this, so this webhook handler is going to give you the message or the event. So now you have to handle the event, right? So that particular event is user dot created event. We are going to handle one single event, so I'm just going to comment it there so that we follow the approach. Event dot type is equal to user dot created. That is our event type. If that is the event type, we're going to be writing the code for that. So we want it in a variable. So I'm going to initialize it as data equal to event, and this is of type array. So I'm going to pass in data in event array, and I'm also going to be declaring a function here, sync user to db, and I'm going to pass this data over here. Now remember, this function is not yet created. I'm going to return, and now this basically function is going to sync or upsert user into our database. So I'm going to write the function below. I'm going to define the function below it, and the data that is being passed to it will be of type dictionary. So let me pass that as argument. So first we need a variable for storing session. So I'm going to start as session local. Then I'm going to start with a try catch block. Inside the try, I'm going to get the clerk ID. And after that, I'm going to get the email. So basically, there are three things that we need. First, we need to extract the primary email. Keep in mind that you can have multiple email in Clerk if you have configured it that way. Then we need to upsert user into the database. And third thing we need to do is we need to upsert the student or trainer profile, whichever person actually gives up. But for now we are just going with the student profile. So we are assuming that students are going to log in through our systems. So email, first I'm going to initialize with none. Now I'm going to start a loop wherein I'll be getting the email addresses, primary email address. So I'm pretty sure this is email addresses instead of primary email address. Let me check real quick. Yeah, as you can see that arrays email addresses, and inside is an email address. So let me just take that, and if e dot get id equal to data dot get. So this is going to be the logic to get the email address out of the array. Now we are going to check if email or username is present. So first, this is the basic logic of our backend. So if there is no username present, we will be actually extracting username from the email address itself. That is something that is specific to our backend, might not be for your case. So I'm just going to code it out over here. So I'm going to split it after add the rate. Now coming to the upsert user into db. So since this is going to be an atomic uh, operation, I'm going to use one or none instead of first. And let me just import the user from models. Coming down here, I think the error is gone for the user. Now let me just write the code for adding the user. Since Copilot is suggesting me, let's just go with it. I think there is some mistake over here, so let me just remove it. So I just want the user role to be set as student. So I'm using user role dot student. I think user role is also not imported, so just add it over in the import statement. Since user role is also defined in user.py itself, so we don't need to do another import statement. Okay, done. Also, after this user is added, I'm going to add a try catch block to commit and they refresh the user table, and I'm going to accept an integrity error over here. If something goes wrong, the db is going to roll back from over there. That is why we actually started the session local in the first step, and then I'm going to return the user with the db and the query that we used before. Now this integrity error is also not defined. So let me just copy this SQL Alchemy import statement, because integrity is error is part of SQL Alchemy.exe package. So I'm going to import the integrity error from over here. Now let's come back to the upserting logic. So if user and user dot role equal to user role dot student, okay, this is going to be student capitals, and then I'm going to initiate with a constructor over here, and I'm going to pass the details in the constructor as arguments. Let me just complete this. I think there is going to be a thing or two different than what Copilot has suggested me. So I'm going to remove this last part, since phone number is not, I don't think phone number is present over here. So we are going to pass it as empty, and scholar number can be nullable, right? So we can also give it as empty, or we can actually pass none. Okay, that's done. So let's go ahead and, okay, there is an import error for student as well, so let me get it done. Yeah, so I've imported the student now, and I'm going to add student to the database. Then I'm going to again start a try catch block, and inside this I'm going to commit and refresh the student table. Okay, let's not do that, just accept the integrity error over here, and inside the accept block we are going to give rollback. So if this doesn't happen, if anything wrong happens with the commit, we are going to roll back to our previous state. So finally we are going to close the db. After that, let's head to the Clerk dashboard. Let's start the application and also forward the port. I'm going to go ahead and change the visibility first, and then I'm going to copy this URL and check if it is up. So yeah, it is working. Also our auth webhook endpoint is there, so that is going to be there. I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to append it with slash auth slash webhook. First we need to also check what sessions we are going to subscribe to. what events we are going to subscribe to. There is only one user dot created. Then I'm going to click on create. After this, you see there is one endpoint given. Also, the signing secret is now generated. And I'm going to do the testing from over here itself. As you can see, this is the type of payload that they are giving. And I'm going to click on send example. So this is going to send an example request to your endpoint. Now you can check it in the logs, but it sometimes takes a bit to actually reflect in the portal. So you can see there is no activity given, but in the logs you can see that for this particular time 3:30 a.m. it is present over here. And if okay, so we are getting an error, but it says succeeded over here. Let me check what actually went wrong. Okay, so basically I don't see an email address. So that is why we are getting it. Also, there was the environment variable was not properly saved. After that, you must be getting it in the DB itself as well. That was Webhooks in action, from theory with APIs, polling, and WebSockets, and comparing WebSockets with Webhooks to a hands-on demo with Clerk sending us real user events. Webhooks are like your backend doorbell. They let other services notify you instantly when something important happens. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the backend concepts and real world demos. And you're building with Clerk or experimenting with Webhooks, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your using them and something unique that you're building with it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.